What's up, guys? This is Bryce VanHoosen. It's been a little bit since we last talked. The world is in a bit of a disarray at this point. A little bit strange out there. Anyway, this is a new episode of The Living Shred. And today we're going to talk about 5 things that you can do to make your home-recorded DI tracks sound absolutely badass. Alright, so excuse the bit of an absence that I have had from checking in and posting new videos and stuff like that. I've currently been in the midst of recording a new Silver Talon record. We started recording this back in December, and I've just been working like a crazy man on getting all these guitar tracks and all this kind of stuff sounding really good and really professional, even though I'm recording everything at home like we did with the Becoming a Demon EP. So in that time, I've kind of learned a few tips and tricks to make my guitar tone sound better with my home recorded DI tracks. Since everybody's sort of locked down and living in coronavirus quarantine, I think this might be something that a lot more people might be interested in doing. So it's fairly easy, and you can set this up to make really awesome sounding home recorded DI tracks without having to set foot in a studio at all. But there are a few pitfalls that you really should avoid when doing this. So I've broken these out into 5 things that have really helped me this time around in making sure that I have the best sounding DI tracks. So here they are. Number 1. Use a DI box. A lot of interfaces will basically just have it so you can plug a 1/4-inch cord straight into the front of the interface. This is okay, but I think that you'll have the best results if you can go in through a nice DI box. It cleans up the sound. It basically takes your instrument level and it converts it into a mic level signal, which is going to sound cleaner. You have a couple different options with the ground lift button. There's going to be one that's noisier, one that's not, and you have a little bit more control over that. You also have the ability to pad the input. The last thing that you want to do, and we'll get to this point a little bit later, which is a mistake that I made with the Silver Talon Becoming a Demon EP, is you do not want to have your DI tracks peaking whatsoever. So use a DI box. I use a, what is this? Just a standard passive Radial Pro DI box you can get for, a little bit over $100. So there really isn't a reason to not use it. And I noticed that when I plugged my guitar into the DI box versus plugging straight into the input, the high Z input of my interface, which is a Universal Audio Apollo Twin interface, so it's a nice interface. But I noticed that the noise was absent. So it was a lot quieter, and basically noise is something that you want to eliminate, if at all possible, from your direct guitar signal. Tip number 2 is to use a preamp. So again, a lot of times your interface will have its own sort of internal preamp. I know that the Universal Audio one does as well, but with at least the Universal Audio stuff, you have the ability to use what is called Unison technology, which basically gives a really sort of high quality software version of analog equipment. So what I do is I like to run a Neve 1073 in unison, basically from the first thing that my guitar basically goes into. From there, I'll kind of reamp or use a VST instrument or something like that. The reason that you want to use a preamp, again, is because we just want to make sure that the noise that you're encountering is limited to as little as possible, and you're getting the strongest direct signal from your guitar, because the guitar signal when you're reamping or you're recording direct at home is basically going to have to pass through a lot of different phases, and there's a lot of noise that can be added along the way. So instead of basically just going from your guitar along a cable into a pedal board into your amp or whatever, now it's basically going from your guitar into an audio interface, into a computer, being recorded, and then being piped back out into your amplifier. So there's a lot of phases in there where you can start to introduce noise into the signal, which will make it sound crappy faster than you would think. So use a preamp. You can use a digital preamp, which is what I'm doing, or you could actually spend, $3 grand on the real thing and get yourself an Neve 1073 or similar preamp unit. Tip number 3, as I alluded to before, is avoid peaking at all costs. This is one of those things that can really make your tone just sound like absolute crap. Like I said, we're already on sort of an uphill battle to try to eliminate noise from the guitar signal to as much of a degree as possible. So if you're doing that in order to just start peaking on the input, it's really not going to sound good. And I would even say that, you know, even if you're getting kind of to sort of like a yellow, it's kind of hot, it's not peaking, you want to kind of back that down a little bit as well. The level should really be in sort of a Goldilocks zone, because I have noticed in particular that if my input level on my preamp is too hot, it will start to introduce a little bit more of that sort of kind of noise that is typical with sort of a reamped guitar signal, especially on, you know, palm muted, chuggy kind of sounding stuff. That's where you'll notice it the most. So do a little bit of experimentation. There's always a Goldilocks zone, and make sure your guitar level is kind of always in that. Not too hot, not too cold. Tip number 4 is we want to eliminate any sort of hum or buzz or various other environmental noises that can be added into the signal. Since your guitar is basically going to have to pass back through your computer into something else, there's a lot of electrical signals that it can kind of go through before getting back out to the amplifier, and you can actually record that stuff into your direct signal, and it's going to come back out and it's going to sound like crap. So things that I'm talking about include basically like radio frequency noise. If, you know, you have an external monitor or something like that that's pointed straight to your guitar pickups, it's probably going to make a little bit of sound. I use active pickups, so it definitely does that. You're going to want to watch, you know, having a bunch of stuff plugged into the same power outlet. If there are any sort of ground loops, you'll record that. Me, since I record most everything from my Universal Audio Apollo into my MacBook Pro, I basically just unplug everything except for the interface from the MacBook Pro. Anything that I have to basically plug into a wall outlet, I plug into a Furman power conditioner, and I unplug everything else from the wall, so nothing's going in. Even certain things in the room, I'm unplugging lights, I'm unplugging all this kind of stuff, because a dirty power signal can actually get into your guitar signal, and it will be reamped, and it will sound very, very disappointing. This also goes for, say, like cell phone noise. Of course, I'm sure everybody's been at like band practice with their cell phone resting on top of their amp, and all of a sudden you get a text message and it comes through with that almost like 64K modem noise from back in the day, if you remember that at all. That will show up when you try to reamp, so make sure that you're not doing that either. Turn everything on to airplane mode. Better to be safe than sorry. And number 5, finally, again, I cannot stress enough, you want to watch your level. Don't make it too quiet either. You can have it peaking and it's going to sound like crap. You can have it super low and it's going to sound like crap also, because you have to do a lot of post-processing to basically beef up that signal so that it sounds like a full signal coming out of a guitar. If you do that, you're going to introduce a lot of noise, because you're basically going to be compressing and boosting the signal, and, you know, just like when you're adding in various overdrives or compressors or equalizers or pedals in front of your guitar before going into an amp, it's kind of the same deal. Anything that's going to make it hotter is going to add some additional noise. So if you can kind of set that from the input stage, whether it's on your preamp or, you know, your input level, whatever, that is going to make a world of difference on how those tracks actually sound. Alright, so that is 5 things to keep in mind when you are recording guitars at home, like I imagine probably a lot of us will be for the foreseeable future at least. It's easy, it's fun, and I think that, you know, given the state of technology today, there's no reason that you necessarily need to go into a studio to record guitars, unless you really just kind of want that, you know, straight from guitar to amp to microphone sort of sound. Definitely it's a lot cheaper, a lot more cost effective. It's a lot more comfortable too. I can do a million takes in this room here and not pay any more money than I would if I was in a studio, or I would pay a lot less money because it's free. I mean, I just pay rent, so. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions or what your thoughts are. If you have any additional tips and tricks, leave them in the comments below. I would love to hear what you do to make your DI tracks sound absolutely badass for recording and later reamping. Alright, everybody stay safe out there. Seriously, this is some crazy stuff that we're dealing with, and I want you all to come back for the next video. So stay safe, stay healthy, and we will talk soon. Thanks.